Hi, what's happening, lovely peoples? So it's Wednesday, so that's another story time with Dottie. I thought we could have a little bit of fun before. I wanted to share some of my paintings that I've been doing. So this was the first one that I did. And then after that, I'm not positive of the order. This one, I think, was the next one, and it was a sunflower that I was not a huge fan of. So I painted the whole thing black and did that over the top. And now it's actually one of my favorites. So that worked out quite well. This one is on paper. It's on watercolor paper, but I mean, it works. It just kind of rolls up at the sides. This one's also on watercolor paper. This was before I got my good brush for doing trees. So now I've been practicing trees quite a bit, trying to get those down. And then been watching a ton of painting videos and just practicing different techniques, trying to use different colors. This one, I wish that I wouldn't have put the hills in there, but that's okay. My backgrounds are getting really good. Super happy with that. And all of these are for sale, but you have to make me an offer on them because, like, with my own art, I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, it's like worth $5 or $5 million. I don't freaking know. Dink says, hi, Dottie's World, love the mermaid paintings. Thank you very much. Yes, the mermaids are definitely in my faves. This one I like quite a bit. I really like the silhouette pictures. Yeah, they're really quite nice. So this one was really fun. I went on a date with a friend of mine, and we went to a paint and wine night. And so you just follow the instructor and you get to leave with a painting. So that one was really fun. And I was the only person who added the swing to my painting. So I felt pretty good about that. And this one I just did today. I went and hung out with a gal friend and we did some paintings. So I just did this one today. Yeah, like working on my trees, working on my blending, my sunsets. Lots of fun. Lots of fun. It's kind of like a meditation for me, honestly. Just kind of relax and veg out, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it. I've thought about doing like painting videos, but I don't know how to set up a camera to do that. I don't know. So let's see who's here tonight. I see Zulu1 just got here. Hello, hello, my friend. Sue Finelli, team leader, the best in the realm. Carrie Skates, Dank, Kirk Wilson. I'm here, of course. You're all here to see me. I'm so special. You guys and gals are literally the best. And Michelle L. Hello. Hello, hello. Good to see you all. So I think we're just going to get this started. Eric DeLeon, hello. And Basque Bear, what's up? Can't paint, but can still draw. Yeah, I've been drawing a ton, and then I've been like heavily getting into painting, and I really, really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, but I need to draw some more because I want to make a coloring book, and so I need a few more drawings to do that. But yeah, the painting it's been a lot of fun because on all of them I can see different things that I need to work on and whatnot, but yeah, I enjoy them quite a bit. Like this one today, I had started with it like that, and I was doing the sun over here, and then I was going to do like a big tree going up here, and then I turned it and looked at it like that after I had all the background color on. I was like, that would look way better that way. And so it's interesting to me how you like may have an idea in mind of what you're going to paint, and then you just start painting and you're like, that's not what this painting is. This painting is meant for something else. So it's yeah, it's quite enjoyable. I actually would really like to go to like a non-speaking monastery type place for, you know, a week or so where you don't speak, and just if I can just have art supplies and stuff like that, I feel like it would be a really rewarding experience. And because yeah, there's so many ways to express yourself that are not in speech, so I think that would be awesome. And I'm in Washington, so if any of you know of one of those places nearby me, please let me know. Southeast Louisiana torn to pieces, so sad. It is. It is indeed. But everyone that we know and love, as far as I know, has made it through it just fine. So yeah, that's really good. Sounds like torture to me. What does? What did I just say? I don't remember. I'm kind of stoned on science. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the no speaking thing. I feel like I would. I mean, I would probably start like it would feel really weird like the first day. Probably the second day would be really weird. But the third day, I don't know. I feel like I would be like, yeah, I don't ever have to speak again. This is great. Um, I mean, I would be happy if like dumb people just didn't speak to me. That would be really nice. It would be like quite the blessing because there's an overabundance of them and they drive me crazy. Anyway, doing what I do, just rambling away. So, we're continuing Prince Caspian in the Chronicles of Narnia series. We're on chapter 3, and this is the Dwarf. The worst of sleeping out of doors is that you wake up so dreadfully early. And when you wake, you have to get up because the ground is so hard that you are uncomfortable. And it makes matters worse if there is nothing but apples for breakfast, and you have had nothing but apples for supper the night before. When Lucy had said truly enough that it was a glorious morning, there did not seem to be anything else nice to be said. Edmund said what everyone was feeling. We've simply got to get off this island. When they had drunk from the well and splashed their faces, they all went down the stream again to the shore and stared at the channel which divided them from the mainland. We'll have to swim, said Edmund. It would be all right for Sue, said Peter. Susan had won prizes for swimming at school. But I don't know about the rest of us. By the rest of us, he really meant Edmund, who couldn't yet do 2 lengths at the school baths, and Lucy, who could hardly swim at all. Jason and Rose 7 have no gas to put in the generator, 97 degrees heat, 90% humidity. I have no water at my place, no electricity, nowhere. They're asking people to leave. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that. I didn't realize that it was so bad. I had just heard from Rose the other day that she was doing fine, but I don't know, maybe like another wave of it came in. I'm not sure. I really don't pay attention to some things like I maybe should, but yeah, hopefully everything goes okay for you. And yeah, one nice thing about Washington is we don't really have extreme weather in any capacity. We get 1 week a year that is like too hot for everyone on the western side, and then other than that, it's pretty mild. Gets kind of cold in the winter, but we don't have serious blizzards on this side, and we don't have extreme heat, and just pretty mild all the time. And it doesn't rain nearly as much as people think it does, but yeah. Duck Michael, you must be new here. What's happening? What's happening, champ? Anyway, said Susan, there may be currents. Father says it's never too wise to bathe in a place you don't know. But Peter, said Lucy, look here, I know I can't swim for nuts at home, in England I mean, but couldn't we all swim long ago? If it was long ago, when we were kings and queens in Narnia, we could ride then too and do all sorts of things. Don't you think? But we were sort of grown up then, said Peter. We reigned for years and years and learned to do things. Aren't we just back at our proper ages again now? Oh, said Edmund in a voice which made everyone stop talking and listen to him. I've just seen it all, he said. Seen what? Asked Peter. Why, the whole thing, said Edmund. You know what we were puzzling about last night, that it was only a year ago since we left Narnia, but everything looks as if no one had lived in Cair Paravel for hundreds of years. Well, don't you see, you know that however long we seem to have lived in Narnia, when we got back through the wardrobe, it seemed to have taken no time at all? Go on, said Susan. I think I'm beginning to understand. And that means, continued Edmund, that once you're out of Narnia, you have no idea how Narnian time is going. Why shouldn't hundreds of years have gone past in Narnia, while only 1 year has passed for us in England? By Jove, Ed, said Peter, I believe you've got it. In that sense, it really was hundreds of years ago that we lived in Cair Paravel, and now we're coming back to Narnia just as if we were Crusaders or Anglo-Saxons or ancient Britons or someone coming back to modern England. How excited they'll be to see us, began Lucy, but at the same moment everyone else said, Hush, or look, for now something was happening. There was a wooded point on the mainland a little to their right, and they all felt sure that just beyond that point must be the mouth of the river. And now, round that point, there came into sight a boat. When it had cleared the point, it turned and began coming along the channel toward them. There were 2 people on board, one rowing, the other sitting in the stern and holding a bundle that twitched and moved as if it were alive. Both these people seemed to be soldiers. They had steel caps on their heads and light shirts of chainmail. Their faces were bearded and hard. The children drew back from the beach into the wood and watched without moving a finger. This'll do, said the soldier in the stern when the boat had come about opposite to them. What about tying a stone to his feet, Corporal? Said the other, resting on his oars. Garn, growled the other. We don't need that, and we haven't brought one. He'll drown, sure enough, without a stone, as long as we've tied the cords right. With these words, he rose and lifted his bundle. Peter now saw that it was really alive and was, in fact, a dwarf, bound hand and foot, but struggling as hard as he could. Next moment he heard a twang just beside his ear, and all at once the soldier threw up his arms, dropping the dwarf into the bottom of the boat, and fell over into the water. He floundered away to the far bank, and Peter knew that Susan's arrow had struck on his helmet. He turned and saw that she was very pale, but was already fitting a second arrow to the string, but it was never used. As soon as he saw his companion fall, the other soldier, with a loud cry, jumped out of the boat on the far side, and he also floundered through the water, which was apparently just in his depth, and disappeared into the woods of the mainland. Quick, before she drifts, shouted Peter. He and Susan, fully dressed as they were, plunged in, and before the water was up to their shoulders, their hands were on the side of the boat. In a few seconds they had hauled her to the bank and lifted the dwarf out, and Edmund was busily engaged in cutting his bonds with the pocket knife. Peter's sword would have been sharper, but a sword is very inconvenient for this sort of work because you can't hold it anywhere lower than the hilt. When at last the dwarf was free, he sat up, rubbed his arms and legs, and exclaimed, Well, whatever they say, you don't feel like ghosts. Like most dwarfs, he was very stocky and deep-chested. He would have been about 3 feet high if he had been standing up, and an immense beard and whiskers of coarse red hair left little of his face to be seen except a beak-like nose and twinkling black eyes. Anyway, he continued, ghosts or not, you've saved my life, and I'm extremely obliged to you. But why should we be ghosts? Asked Lucy. I've been told all my life, said the dwarf, that these woods along the shore was as full of ghosts as they were of trees. That's what the story is. And that's why, when they want to get rid of anyone, they usually bring him down here, like they were doing with me, and say they'll leave him to the ghosts. But I always wondered if they didn't really drown him or cut their throats. I never quite believed in the ghosts, but those 2 cowards you've just shot believed all right. They were more frightened of taking me to my death than I was of going. There's Barbara. been watching from the beginning, but my fingers were too greasy from eating nachos to type. It's a good problem to have. I just made, I harvested some zucchini out of my garden. So I made zucchini boats. So you make like taco fixins, and then you cut the zucchini long ways in half, and then like scoop out the middle, and then you load it up in a baking dish with the taco mix that you made, and then you bake that for well, I did like 30 minutes, but probably needs about like at least 45 to get the zucchini a little softer. But saw a picture, I saw a photograph of those beautiful zucchinis. Yes, it's awesome to just grow food that you just pull it off a plant and then you eat it. It's so cool. So awesome. Let's see. Oh, said Susan, so that's why they both ran away? What's that? Said the dwarf. They got away, said Edmund, to the mainland. I wasn't shooting to kill, you know, said Susan. She would not have liked anyone to think she could miss at such a short range. I just ate so much food, I think I'm going to pop. Well, I mean, that's the right amount of food, right? Tacos bottom of my street were super busy earlier. Yeah, I mean, there's really never a bad day for any variety of tacos. Saw your photos, looks yummy. It was quite yummy. It was really good. Just a little bit spicy, and oh yeah, it was good. It's wonderful. Fresh veggies. Thanks for reminding me about the mixed veggies and rice I still have waiting for me. Yum. That's like one of my favorite things. It's just rice, veggies, maybe some chicken, like orange chicken. That's really good. Super good. Said the dwarf. That's not so good. That may mean trouble later on, unless they hold their tongues for their own sake. What were they going to drown you for? Asked Peter. Oh, I'm a dangerous criminal, I am, said the dwarf cheerfully, but that's a long story. Meantime, I was wondering if perhaps you were going to ask me to breakfast. You have no idea what an appetite it gives one being executed. There's only apples, said Lucy dolefully. Better than nothing, but not so good as fresh fish, said the dwarf. It looks as if I'll have to ask you to breakfast instead. I saw some fishing tackle in that boat, and anyway, we must take her round to the other side of the island. We don't want anyone from the mainland coming down and seeing her. I ought to have thought of that myself, said Peter. That is what I'm excited about, growing food in the future. Yeah, my garden is currently mostly growing in grow bags, and most of my plants were store-bought starts from the store, and they're doing quite well. I've gotten quite a few cherry tomatoes off my couple tomato plants. I have one a big beef tomato. It's a big slicer that's doing quite well, and then I have this turnip that is just so weird. It shouldn't have survived when it started to get hot, and that thing is like so big now, and so I'm gonna have to pull it and cook that bad boy up. But I'm about ready to plant more fall items: beets, turnips, carrots, radishes, stuff like that. Broccoli, cauliflower, maybe. I don't know. Might do like a lot of carrots. Sounds really good. But yeah, it's super fun to just put a bunch of seeds in the ground or some starts, and then a few months later you pull it out of the ground and you eat it. It's like really awesome. My favorite. And I'm really excited to hopefully sooner than later have a nice bit of acreage that I can have a big huge garden on. And so yeah, I'm up for adoption if anyone wants to bring me to their farm and make me grow the food. I would love it. I would love it. The four children and the dwarf went fresh from garden to plate. That's the dream. Yes, yes, indeed. There's really nothing better. It tastes like it's still alive when you just pull it out of the ground and then you eat it. Oh man, it tastes so unbelievable. The four children and the dwarf went down to the water's edge, pushed off the boat with some difficulty, and scrambled aboard. The dwarf at once took charge. The oars were, of course, too big for him to use, so Peter rowed and the dwarf steered them north along the channel, and presently eastward around the tip of the island. From here, the children could see right up the river and all the bays and headlands of the coast beyond it. They thought they could recognize bits of it, but the woods, which had grown up since their time, it made everything look very different. I am high degree says it's unbelievable. Yes, indeed. Indeedly do. When they had come round into open sea, on the east of the island, the dwarf took to fishing. They had an excellent catch of pavenders, a beautiful rainbow-colored fish, which they all remembered eating in Cair Paravel in the old days. When they had caught enough, they ran the boat up into a little creek and moored her to a tree. The dwarf, who was a most capable person, and indeed though one meets bad dwarfs, I never heard of a dwarf who was a fool, cut the fish open, cleaned them, and said, "Now, what we want next is some firewood." "We'll get some up at the castle," said Edmund. The dwarf gave a low whistle. "Beards and bedsteads," he said, "so there really is a castle after all." "It's only a ruin," said Lucy. The dwarf stared round at all four of them with a very curious expression on his face. "And who on earth," he began, but then broke off and said, "No matter, breakfast first. But one thing before we go on. Can you lay your hand on your hearts and tell me I'm really alive? Are you sure I wasn't drowned and we're not all ghosts together?" When they had all reassured him, the next question was how to carry the fish. They had nothing to string them on and no basket. They had to use Edmund's hat in the end because no one else had a hat. He would have made much more fuss about this if he had not by now been so ravenously hungry. At first, the dwarf did not seem very comfortable in the castle. He kept looking round and sniffing and saying, "Looks a bit spooky after all. Smells like ghosts, too." But he cheered up when it came to lighting the fire and showing them how to roast the fresh pavenders in the embers. Eating hot fish with no forks and no pocket knife between 5 people is a messy business, and there were several burnt fingers before the meal was ended. But as it was now 9 o'clock, they had been up since 5, nobody minded the burns so much as you might have expected. When everyone had finished off with a drink from the well and an apple or so, the dwarf produced a pipe about the size of his own arm, filled it, lit it, blew a great cloud of fragrant smoke, and said, "Now, you tell us your story first," said Peter, "and then we'll tell you ours." "Well," said the dwarf, "as you've saved my life, it is only fair you should have your own way. But I hardly know where to begin. First of all, I'm a messenger of King Caspian's." "Who's he?" asked 4 voices all at once. "Caspian, the 10th King of Narnia." "Caspian the 10th, King of Narnia, and long may he reign," answered the dwarf. "That is to say, he ought to be King of Narnia, and we hope he will be. At present, he is only King of us old Narnians." "What do you mean by old Narnians, please?" asked Lucy. "Why, that's us," said the dwarf. "We're a kind of rebellion, I suppose." "I see," said Peter, "and Caspian is the chief old Narnian?" "Well, in a manner of speaking," said the dwarf, scratching his head, "but he's really a new Narnian himself, a Telmarine, if you follow me." "I don't," said Edmund. "It's worse than the War of the Roses," said Lucy. "Oh dear," said the dwarf, "I'm doing this very badly. Look here, I think I'll have to go right back to the beginning and tell you how Caspian grew up in his uncle's court and how he comes to be on our side at all. But it'll be a long story. All the better, said Lucy. We love stories. So the dwarf settled down and told his tale. I shall not give it to you in his words, putting in all the children's questions and interruptions, because it would take too long and be confusing, and even so leave out some points that the children only heard later. But the gist of the story, as they knew it, in the end, was as follows. Who braids my hair? My mom? No, I do it myself. This is just a really simple braid. I get up earlier than everybody else in my house, and so this is like my signature like work look. Yeah. War of the Roses. I remember that movie. Don't you mean War of the Worlds? Eric seems to be in a salty mood tonight. Could be. Maybe it's me who's salty. Had a weird day. Not like bad, but just weird. Like, I don't know. People are really getting crazy. I honestly just can't stand the frequency of people that I'm encountering at work, and it's just, I'm really over it, and I'm definitely ready to move to like 50 acres and just do that. What is salty? I mean, like, could be being like, don't be a salty bitch, you know, like snarky. Candace, hello. I don't know. Chapter 4. The Dwarf tells of Prince Caspian. Prince Caspian lived in a great castle in the center of Narnia with his uncle Miraz, the king of Narnia, and his aunt, who had red hair and was called Queen Pruna Prismia. His father and mother were dead, and the person whom Caspian loved best was his nurse. And though being a prince he had wonderful toys which would do almost anything but talk, he liked best the last hour of the day when the toys had all been put back in their cupboards and nurse would tell him stories. Don't be a salty bitch. Yeah, that's it's good words to live by. He did not care much for his uncle and aunt, but about twice a week his uncle would send for him, and they would walk up and down together for half an hour on the terrace at the south side of the castle. One day while they were doing this, the king said to him, "Well, boy, we must soon teach you to ride and use a sword. You know that your aunt and I have no children, so it looks as if you might have to be king when I'm gone. How shall you like that, eh?" "I don't know, uncle," said Caspian. "Don't know?" said Miraz. "Why, I should like to know what more anyone could wish for." "All the same, I do wish," said Caspian. "What do you wish?" asked the king. I wish I could have lived in the old days," said Caspian. He was only a very little boy at the time. Up till now, King Miraz had been talking in the tiresome way that some grown-ups have, which makes it quite clear that they are not really interested in what you are saying. But now he suddenly gave Caspian a very sharp look. "What's that?" he said. "What old days do you mean?" "Oh, don't you know, uncle?" said Caspian, "when everything was quite different, when all the animals could talk, and there were nice people who lived in the streams and the trees, naiads and dryads they were called, and there were dwarfs, and there were lovely little fawns in all the woods. They had feet like goats, and—" "That's all nonsense for babies," said the king sternly. "Only fit for babies, you hear? You're getting too old for that sort of stuff. At your age, you ought to be thinking of battles and adventures, not fairy tales." "Oh, but there were battles and adventures in those days," said Caspian. "Wonderful adventures. Once there was a white witch, and she made herself queen of the whole country, and she made it so that it was always winter. And then 2 boys and 2 girls came from somewhere, and so they killed the witch, and they were made kings and queens of Narnia, and their names were Peter and Susan and Edmund and Lucy. And so they reigned for ever so long, and everyone had a lovely time, and it was all because of Aslan. Naiads and dryads. So Naiads, naiad, and dryad, Dryad. Yeah, naiads and dryads. I love when she rolls her eyes and shakes her head in my comments. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Oh my gosh. Probably something I don't even realize I do. Super funny. Who's he? Said Miraz, and if Caspian had been a very little older, and the tone of his uncle's voice would have warned him that it would be wiser to shut up, but he babbled on. Oh, don't you know, he said, Aslan is the great lion who comes from over the sea. Who has been telling you all this nonsense? Said the king in a voice of thunder. Caspian was frightened and said nothing. Your Royal Highness, said King Miraz, letting go of Caspian's hand, which he had been holding till now, I insist upon being answered. Look me in the face. Who has been telling you this pack of lies? Nurse, faltered Caspian and burst into tears. Stop that noise, said his uncle, taking Caspian by the shoulders and giving him a shake. Stop it, and never let me catch you talking or thinking either about all those silly stories again. There never were those kings and queens. How could there be 2 kings at the same time? And there's no such person as Aslan. And there was no such thing as lions. And there never was a time when animals could talk. Do you hear? Yes, uncle, sobbed Caspian. Can't stop laughing over here. I'm in a drunken mood. I'm not even drunk. Just drunk on my spell of whatever the hell it is I have. Then let's have no more of it, said the king. Then he called to one of the gentlemen in waiting who were standing at the far end of the terrace, and said in a cold voice, Conduct his Royal Highness to his apartments, and send his Royal Highness's nurse to me at once. Next day, Caspian found what a terrible thing he had done, for the nurse had been sent away without even being allowed to say goodbye to him, and he was told he was to have a tutor. Caspian missed his nurse very much and shed many tears, and because he was so miserable, he thought about the old stories of Narnia far more than before. He dreamed of dwarves and dryads every night, and tried very hard to make the dogs and cats in the castle talk to him, but the dogs only wagged their tails and the cats only purred. Caspian felt sure that he would hate the new tutor, but when the new tutor arrived about a week later, he turned out to be the sort of person it is almost impossible not to like. He was the smallest and also the fattest man Caspian had ever seen. He had a long silvery pointed beard which came down to his waist, and his face, which was brown, was covered with wrinkles, looked very wise, very ugly, and very kind. His voice was grave and his eyes were merry, so that until you got to know him really well, it was hard to know when he was joking and when he was serious. His name was Dr. Cornelius. Dogs and cats don't talk, bro. Well, maybe you just don't live in the right part of the realm. This is better than ASMR. Thank you. That's very nice. Of all his lessons with Dr. Cornelius, the one that Caspian liked best was history. Up till now, except for Nurse's stories, he had known nothing about the history of Narnia, and he was very surprised to learn that the royal family were newcomers in the country. It was your Highness's ancestor Caspian the First, said Dr. Cornelius, who first conquered Narnia and made it his kingdom. It was he who brought all your nation into the country. You are not native Narnians at all. You are all Telmarines. That is, you all came from the land of Talmar, far beyond the western mountains. That is why Caspian the First is spelled Caspian. That is why Caspian the First is called Caspian the Conqueror. My friend had a dog that smoked hash. What is hash? It's like something like concentrated weed in some way. Yeah, something like that. Please, Doctor, asked Caspian one day, who lived in Narnia before we all came here out of Telmar? No men, or very few, lived in Narnia before the Telmarines took it, said Dr. Cornelius. Then who did my great-great-ancestors conquer? Whom, not who, Your Highness, said Dr. Cornelius. Perhaps it is time to turn from history to grammar. Oh, please, not yet, said Caspian. I mean, wasn't there a battle? Why is he called Caspian the Conqueror if there was nobody to fight with him? I said there were very few men in Narnia, said the doctor, looking at the little boy very strangely through his great spectacles. For a moment, Caspian was puzzled, and then suddenly his heart gave a leap. Do you mean, he gasped, that there were other things? Do you mean it was like in the stories? Were there... Hush, said Dr. Cornelius, laying his head very close to Caspian's. Not a word more. Don't you know your nurse was sent away for telling you about old Narnia? The king doesn't like it. If he found me telling you secrets, you'd be whipped and I should have my head cut off. But why? Asked Caspian. It is high time we turn to grammar now, said Dr. Cornelius in a loud voice. Will your Royal Highness be pleased to open Pulverulentus Siccus at the 4th page of his grammatical garden, or the arbor of accidents pleasantly opened to tender wits? After that, it was all nouns and verbs till lunchtime, but I don't think Caspian learned much. He was too excited. He felt sure that Dr. Cornelius would have not said so much unless he meant to tell him more sooner or later. In this he was not disappointed. A few days later, his tutor said, Tonight I am going to give you a lesson in astronomy. At dead of night, 2 noble planets, Tarva and Alambil, will pass within 1 degree of each other. Such a conjunction has not occurred for 200 years, and your Highness will not live to see it again. It will be best if you go to bed a little earlier than usual. When the time of the conjunction draws near, I will come and wake you. No beheading here. You know what? I think we need more beheadings. Yeah. Done munching. Now I'm just fat. Yeah, I feel that. My dinner was really good and really filling. I'm smoking cookies and cream. Only a couple grams left. Need to reload tomorrow. Nice. I was smoking a blunt with a friend, and it was out of sour diesel. And it was really good. Really good. Dank is a street term referencing some really good weed. True. The chronic. Yes, indeed, Lee. I still don't know what kind of weed. The good kind, Doug. Behead of what? Behead of lettuce in the garden. Hell yeah. I'm going to eat like a fat bastard tomorrow. Barbecue, been a while, chorizo, chistora, and marinated chicken in the fridge. Marinated chicken sounds really good. Sour diesel is tasty weed. It is very much so. Yes, super chronic. Weed heads, yes, we are. Indeed. Indeed, we are. Purple Burple. Yeah, I bet that's a good one. Pretty much every name out there you can throw out there as a weed kind. Yeah, the sour diesel is really good. I also have some gelato that I'm smoking. That one's really good. That one doesn't like kick my ass as much. The sour diesel is definitely like, yeah, I could go to sleep. Yeah, that's nice. Nice. Yeah. Bunch of hippies in the chat. Don't forget racist, Kirk. I see you. I got that in my backyard. We have spun out of control. Yeah, I mean, we crashed harder than a rocket going into the Bermuda Triangle. So this didn't seem to have anything to do with old Narnia, which was what Caspian really wanted to hear about, but getting up in the middle of the night is always interesting, and he was moderately pleased. When he went to bed that night, he thought at first that he would not be able to sleep, but he soon dropped off, and it seemed only a few minutes before he felt someone gently shaking him. He sat up in bed and saw that the room was full of moonlight. Dr. Cornelius, muffled in a hooded robe and holding a small lamp in his hand, stood by the bedside. Caspian remembered at once what they were going to do. He got up and put on some clothes. Although it was a summer night, he felt colder than he had expected and was quite glad when the doctor wrapped him in a robe like his own and gave him a pair of warm, soft buskins for his feet. A moment later, both muffled so that they could hardly be seen in the dark corridors, and both shod so that they made almost no noise, master and pupil left the room. Bunch of weed heads escaping reality. It sounds like a Queen song. Yeah, definitely. All old strains are my favorite. Silver Haze, OG Kush, Blue Cheese, White Widow, Shark Amnesia Haze, White Widow. Really good. Yes. Really good. Oh, yeah. Caspian followed the doctor through many passages and up several staircases, and at last through a little door in a turret. They came out upon the leads. On one side were the battlements, on the other a steep roof. Below them, all shadowy and shimmery, the castle gardens, above them stars and moon. Presently they came to another door, which led into the great central tower of the whole castle. Dr. Cornelius unlocked it, and they began to climb the dark, winding stair of the tower. Caspian was becoming excited. He had never been allowed up this stair before. It was long and steep, but when they came out on the roof of the tower and Caspian had got his breath, he felt that it had been well worth it. Away on his right, he could see rather indistinctly the western mountains. On his left was the gleam of the great river. Oh, good night, Eric. Sleep good. Let's form a drum circle and go to a fish concert. I am down for drum circles. Yes, let's do that. Everything was so quiet that he could hear the sound of a waterfall at Beaver's Dam a mile away. There was no difficulty in picking out the two stars they had come to see. They hung rather low in the southern sky, almost as bright as two little moons, and very close together. "Are they going to have a collision?" he asked in an awestruck voice. "Nay, dear prince," said the doctor, and he too spoke in a whisper. "The great lords of the upper sky know the steps of their dance too well for that. Look well upon them. Their meeting is fortunate and means some great good for the sad realm of Narnia. Tarva, the Lord of Victory, salutes Alambil, the Lady of Peace. They are just coming to their nearest." "It's a pity that tree gets in the way," said Caspian. "We'd really see better from the west tower, though it is not so high." Dr. Cornelius said nothing for about 2 minutes, but stood still with his eyes fixed on Tarva and Elambo. Then he drew a deep breath and turned to Caspian. There, he said, you have seen what no man now alive has seen nor will see again, and you were right. We should have seen it even better from the smaller tower. I brought you here for another reason. Caspian looked up at him, but the doctor's hood concealed most of his face. The virtue of this tower, said Dr. Cornelius, is that we have 6 empty rooms beneath us, and a long stair, and the door at the bottom of the stair is locked. We cannot be overheard. Are you going to tell me what you wouldn't tell me the other day? Said Caspian. I am, said the doctor. But remember, you and I must never talk about these things except here, on the very top of the great tower. No, that's a promise, said Caspian, but do go on, please. Listen, said the doctor, all you have heard about old Narnia is true. It is not the land of men. It is the country of Aslan, the country of the walking trees and visible naiads, of fauns and satyrs, of dwarves and giants, of the gods, of the centaurs, and of talking beasts. It was against these that the first Caspian fought. It is you, Telmarines, who silenced the beasts and the trees and the fountains, and who killed and drove away the dwarfs and fauns, and who are now trying to cover up even the memory of them. The king does not allow them to be spoken of. Oh, I do wish we hadn't, said Caspian, and I am glad it was all true, even if it's all over. Many of your race wish that in secret, said Dr. Cornelius. But doctor, said Caspian, why do you say my race? After all, I suppose you're a Telmarine, too. Am I? Said the doctor. Well, you're a man, anyway, said Caspian. Am I? Repeated the doctor in a deeper voice, at the same moment throwing back his hood so that Caspian could see his face clearly in the moonlight. All at once, Caspian realized the truth and felt that he ought to have realized it long before. Dr. Cornelius was so small and so fat and had such a very long beard. 2 thoughts came into his head at the same moment. One was a thought of terror. He's not a real man. Not a man at all. He's a dwarf. And he's brought me up here to kill me. The other, sheer delight. There are real dwarfs still, and I've seen one at last. So, you've guessed it in the end, said Dr. Cornelius, or guessed it nearly right. I'm not a pure dwarf. I have human blood in me, too. Many dwarfs escaped in the great battles and lived on, shaving their beards and wearing high-heeled shoes and pretending to be men. They have mixed with your Telmarines. I am one of those, only a half-dwarf, and if any of my kindred, the true dwarfs, are still alive anywhere in the world, doubtless they would despise me and call me a traitor. But never in all these years have we forgotten our own people and all the other happy creatures of Narnia and the long-lost days of freedom. Does a Shaka Zulu one drum circle? Yes, that's the only way to do a drum circle. I'm sorry, doctor, said Caspian. It wasn't my fault, you know. I am not saying these things in blame of you, dear prince, answered the doctor. You may well ask why I say them at all, but I have 2 reasons. Firstly, because my old heart has carried these secret memories for so long that it aches with them and would burst if I did not whisper them to you. But secondly, for this, that when you become king, you may help us, for I know that you also, Telmarine though you are, love the old things. He's an angry dwarf. Yeah, he's an angry elf. I do, said Caspian, but how can I help? You can be kind to the poor remnants of the dwarf people like myself. You can gather learned magicians and try to find a way of awakening the trees once more. You can search through all the nooks and wild places of the land to see if any fauns or talking beasts or dwarfs or are perhaps still alive and hiding. Do you think there are any? Asked Caspian eagerly. I don't know, said the doctor with a deep sigh. Sometimes I'm afraid there can't be. I've been looking for traces of them all my life. Sometimes I have thought I heard a dwarf drum in the mountains. Sometimes at night in the woods, I thought I had a glimpse of fauns and satyrs dancing a long way off. But when I came to the place, there was never anything there. I have often despaired, but something always happens to start me hoping again. I don't know, but at least you can try to be a king like the high King Peter of old, and not like your uncle. Short fuse indeed. Yeah, for sure. Then it's true about the kings and queens, too, and about the White Witch, said Caspian. Certainly it is true, said Cornelius. Their reign was the golden age in Narnia, and the land has never forgotten them. Did they live in this castle too, doctor? Nay, my dear, said the old man. This castle is a thing of yesterday. Your great-great-grandfather built it. But when the two sons of Adam and the two daughters of Eve were made kings and queens of Narnia by Aslan himself, they lived in the castle of Cair Paravel. No man alive has seen that blessed place, and perhaps even the ruins of it have now vanished. But we believe it was far from here, down at the mouth of the great river, on the very shore of the sea. Ugh, said Caspian with a shudder. Do you mean in the Black Woods, where all the ghosts live? They work at coffee shops as short order cooks. Nailed it. Yep. Only pay half a fare. Pretty good. Your Highness speaks as you have been taught, said the doctor, but it is all lies. There are no ghosts there. That is a story invented by the Telmarines. Your kings are in deadly fear of the sea because they can never quite forget that in all stories Aslan comes from over the sea. They don't want to go near it, and they don't want anyone else to go near it. So they have let great woods grow up to cut their people off from the coast. But because they have quarreled with the trees, they are afraid of the woods. And because they are afraid of the woods, they imagine that they are full of ghosts. And the kings and great men, hating both the sea and the wood, partly believed these stories and partly encouraged them. They feel safer if no one in Narnia dares to go down to the coast and look out to the sea, toward Aslan's land and the morning and the eastern end of the world. There was a deep silence between them for a few minutes. Then Dr. Cornelius said, Come, we have been here long enough. It is time to go down and to bed. Must we? Said Caspian. I'd like to go on talking about these things for hours and hours and hours. Someone might be looking for us if we did that, said Dr. Cornelius. Too bad they can't get in R-rated movies. It's true. Make their own short films. Oh, and that was the end of our 2 chapters. FYI. So what's happening with everyone? I'm in Washington and it's pretty insane right now, but my garden is growing, which is nice. About to pull everything, mostly everything, and plant some fall stuff. So I'm excited for those, but I don't know. How's it going everywhere else? Can't fit loads into a Mini Cooper, 15 out of 20. It's true. One of my friends in high school, she had a Geo Metro, and one of our end of the year parties, we wanted to see how many people we could fit in the Geo Metro. And we got 14 people in there, all varying heights and weights of people. And yeah, we got in there. It happened. So pretty impressive for a Geo Metro. Very enjoyable reading night. Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for being here, Doc. It's always a pleasure. And I am so tired. Smoking a blunt of the sleepy weed indica. Yeah, definitely did happen. Where did I read that? Still in Oregon, people gone fucking crazy again. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, I mean, pretty much every city right now is just like collapsing in on itself. It's bad. Yeah. California is pretty split, but here in the OC, most don't wear masks. That's nice. Barbara is back to probably 98% of people in masks, maybe even 99%. It's really bad. It's yeah, I just really can't handle how angry people are over the mandate this time. Because yeah, people just are like going out of the store screaming, and I can't handle their frequency. Like, it's just, I got to get away from these people. It's so bad. And with how angry they get, none of them ever think of just like continuing going into the store. Like Walmart, the greeters will tell you that you have to wear a mask, and people will walk out of the store and just like scream in the parking lot, but then they still go and get their mask out of the car and then put it on. And it's like, just walk into the store. Like, all you have to do is tell them that you can't wear a mask, and like, they're not going to chase you down. They're not going to do anything. Masks are bad here again. What part of Washington are you in, Kirk? So I'm in Shelton. Multnomah County reinstated the mask shit last week. Still not wearing one. Yeah. My whole state, Washington, we reinstated the mask mandate last week. And then a friend of mine and I were going to go to the fair, and the fair just announced that you have to wear a mask whether you're inside or outside at the fair. And I was reading their website, and it said that they'll honor an exemption if you have one. So once the fair is actually open, I'm gonna like call them and find out what I have to do to get the exemption. It's like, I want to go to the fair, but I'm not gonna wear a mask. Like, no, it's not happening. Not happening at all. Walmart shut the register down in the middle of my daughter checking out. It's insanity. I don't get it at all. Eatonville in Pierce County. Oh yeah, I know where Eatonville is. Yeah, that's not super far from me. Needless to say, Target gets their money now. Yeah. Yeah, the Walmart that I go to, there's one guy who is really terrible about them. He's really mean to people, but the other people are like small old ladies. And I went in shopping it was today after I got off work. I put my work stuff down and then went back in shopping. And she's like, "Oh, do you need a mask?" And I said, "No, I'm good." And then as I'm walking away, I hear her say, "They're required, right?" And I just kept walking, and nobody came and did anything. So, but yeah, it's really sad to see so many grown men who are just complying with this shit. And a lot of them yell about the fact that they're jabbed up and still have to wear the mask. And it's like, yeah, why did you do any of this? Are you stupid? You really think it's going to end? It was supposed to be 2 weeks. Here we are, 20 months later. It's pure insanity. Pure insanity. There are signs that say masks are required on every place I go into. Never wore one. Yep, exactly. Me too. I go to the Walmart and the Safeway by me, and I'm able to go into both of those and not wear one. And then while I'm working, I just basically try and go through the garden gate to get to the outside, and then I don't have to go through the store at all. And yeah, because the door greeters were trying to hassle me about wearing one. I'm not going to. And then some person of management came over and told me that if I wasn't going to wear a mask, I had to wear like, she said it looked like a beekeeper like helmet, that I don't even know where to get one, but I have like this stupid plastic face shield that I have back by my stuff. But yeah, just like avoid people and go out the back gate, and so I'm just like always outside. But I'm like so drained from all of it. It's just crazy. Worse for me when I see a husband wearing one, but the wife isn't so gay. Yes, exactly. Or the wife is wearing one and the husband isn't. And it's like, why don't you stand up for your woman and tell her she shouldn't be wearing that shit? Like, come on. Yeah, it's too much. It's really. I have one of those old mosquito netting hats. Yeah, see, there you go. You'll be staying safe and saving lives at the same time, Doc Michael. You'll just, wow. I bet you will feel super safe in your beekeeper gear. Yeah, definitely. Do it. Do it. Singe Man, what's happening? What's happening? So you're unfortunately here at the end, but you can always rewind and replay and check it out. But yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you all here. I'm like so tired. That blunt that I smoked was, well, it was way good. Way good. Man, oh man. Sue Finelli, Singe Man, Doc Michael, Carrie Skates, Kirk Wilson, Barbara Zena Bear, Candace C, scrolling through the chat. Do I see some people that I haven't called out? Eric DeLeon, Doc Michael, I think that's your name. I am high degree. Dank. Hello, my peoples. And I know that Zulu1 was here at some point. I'm sure he'll pop in to say goodbye. So, when will everyone be wearing hazmat suits? You know what I was wondering is if they're trying to say that Delta is so much more deadly, why aren't people wearing the double and triple masks again? You know, why aren't they doing that? That I didn't believe that anyone actually would do that, and I saw too many people wearing 2 masks last time with the mandate. So why aren't people doing that again? But I mean, why are they taking a third vaccine when the first 2 didn't do shit? Come on, people. Think alive. Think on your feet. Shit's not making any sense. It's just, I'm just like, I'm so worn down from all of it. People are just, they're really just dumb as piss. I mean, TV told them, yeah, exactly. My son's dad is like the definition of a zombie sheep right now. I mean, everything that I am not, he is. And it's getting a lot harder to deal with him. Yeah, because he believes literally everything the TV says. Everything. Doesn't even see that there's a problem with it at all. It's mind-blowing. They're wearing double masks around here. People down there are fucking crazy, Sue. They are just insane. People would be saying 2 more shots, get our freedom back. Freaking from a FEMA camp window. Yep, exactly. The people who are screaming about having to wear a mask going into the store, they're going to be screaming that they don't want to go onto the train, but they're still going to get on the damn train. They're still going to go. They're still going to do it. Yeah. $6.99 for 2 of those khaki mosquito net hat covers for your sun hat. There you go, Doc Michael. That's what you do. I mean, if you're going to do something pointless, you might as well just go big. Get 2 of them. Then, like, why not wear both of them? I bet you'll feel extra safe in that. Yeah, definitely. Keep that link at a couple of those for backup if somebody turns into a real ass bite. Yeah, I mean, the people are just, they're such twat canoes right now. They really are. They're really just terrible. And I wish that people would stop being so afraid, because it's really draining my energy. Yeah, it's just really, really terrible. Thanks, Dottie. Have an awesome night. You too, Basque Bear. Thank you for being here. Biggest genocide ever, and people are defending the executioners. Yep, exactly. Because all you have to do is say, well, science approved this. Yeah, well, science used to tell you that it probably wasn't a big deal to smoke while you're pregnant. So maybe you shouldn't listen to them so much. But yeah, I'm going to skedaddle out of here and hit the old dusty trail right into bed, because I'm just like high AF, and sleeping sounds so nice right now. Probably go drink a bunch of water. Yeah, and then go to sleep. Sounds awesome. So I thank you all for being here. If you want to support me and my channel, do so. Cash App, $Dottiesdomes. PayPal.me/FindingDottie. P.O. Box 1598, Shelton, Washington 98584. And I will see you all next Wednesday. See you all on the flat side. Much love. Best guys and gals on the plane. See ya.